Whatever SFVS, this is satellite media. Let us analyze what is happening currently. With me is the Tribune newspaper. We are seeing here, say, stop reign of impunity, flagrant violation of citizens' rights. That is coming from Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president of Nigeria and the flag bearer of PDP in the 2023 presidential election. That was another thing here, saying herders attack Amatekun operatives in Ondo over arrest of 120 cows. We are seeing a major one here. He's saying $150 billion somewhere deal. Tinubu government not desperate. Who signed harmful agreements? That's coming from the presidency. The writer is saying federal government raises the alarm over Islam preachers use of force LGBTQ story in sermons. One's attempt to incite public against government won't be tolerated, linking Samoa agreement to LGBTQ. It's irresponsible. I think that is coming from British envoy. Now let us quickly look at the election before we go into what we have on this cover page. We understand that the election will be coming up very soon, and the president recently, while he was addressing some party supporters, loyalists, promised to give Ondo State to APC. When he spoke, according to him, he said he's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he was asking party faithfuls, do you want Ondo back? They say yes. He said, and the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I'll give it to you. Now the question is, we are in a democracy, we are in democracy, and we are at a loss as to where the president derive the power to decide who to give a particular state in an election that is supposed to be contested by different political parties, and where we have the umpire as the INEC. We are at a loss as to where Mr. President derive the power to decide who to give a particular state to in an election, because we understand that as at the last count, election is contested by political parties on the basis of one man, one vote. And after the election, the umpire, which is the INEC, declare the result based on the results, the election result as scored by different parties from all the units across the states. So we are worried that the statement that came from the president is unbecoming, and that the president needed to understand that we are in democracy, and that in democracy, when you conduct election, it's a matter of how you are able to magnetize vote for your party as you go to the people to canvass votes. And when you do this, you do it on the basis of your manifesto to the people. We understand that the election will soon come up in Edo State. We are all watching to see how the umpire will manage the situation. Away from that, let us look at the information that is coming from the presidency, or rather the federal government, talking about the $150 billion Samoa deal. It is good to see that the government is picking up, because before now there were so many outcry against the deal, people giving it different interpretation. But I think the government needs to do more, because we understand that the government already made a document available to the press to scrutinize, so that they can set the record straight. Because before now, there were speculations out there that the Samuel deal has something to do with issue that has to do with LGBTQ. The government is coming out to say yes, we entered into this deal, but it has nothing to do with lesbianism, it has nothing to do with gay, it has nothing to do with bisexual, transgender, and queer. That the agreement they enter into has nothing to do with all of that, but rather for the development of the country. So we encourage government to do more, because if the information were in the public domain from the beginning, I don't think anybody would have gone ahead to start speculating. Hence, the government have given the document to the press to scrutinize. I think by the time the details of the document filter into the public space, people can start looking at it and start doing appraisal. Then away from that, let us look at the issue that has to do with Ondo State. We have here say herders attack Amatekun operatives in Ondo over arrest of 120 cows. Let us look into this critically. I think this is where we'll be calling on federal government to give urgent attention to the rejigging of the security architecture. We understand that the issue of security is in the exclusive legislative list. And this has made it almost impossible for state houses of assembly, for government at the state level to legislate over issue of security. But let us quickly remember that under the former administration of Muhammadu Buhari, the southwestern state came up with security arrangement called Amatekun. And since then, they have been managing the security situation in the southwestern part of the country, particularly in the area that has to do with the bushes and forests. But we are seeing a worrying situation here, where the operative of Amatekun legitimately went to arrest some cows who were allegedly destroying crops in some places after the farmers have lodged series of complaints. And surprisingly, from what we are seeing, the herders, who perhaps would have been the owner of the cows, attacked the operatives. And from what we are seeing, I think one of them was injured to the point of being in coma. But the point here is, federal government at this point should realize that security of life and property is at the cardinal of governance. Federal government should realize, because the constitution is very clear about the issue of security of Nigerians and their welfare. Because the constitution says that the welfare of Nigerians and their security shall be the primary purpose of governance. So to that extent, it needs priority attention. And if it needs priority attention, the government needs to give it the attention that it deserves. For instance, seeing Amatekun operatives going on a legitimate duty to arrest cows that were destroying crops, attacked by herders, I think the government should rise to the occasion and do something serious about it. Let us see whether the government can, at this point, rejig security architecture. Rejigging security architecture, you agree with me that the issue of herders, post-community clashes have taken the center stage. Currently, we have what I would call, of course, is a no fact, there's food inflation in Nigeria. And the issue across board has to do with herders infiltrating the host communities, farming communities, destroying crops, and all that. Let me quickly say that at this point, I had a conversation with someone from Benue State. We all know what Benue stands for in Nigeria. Of course, Benue is the basket food of the nation. I had a conversation with someone from Benue State who said that he buy food stuff from Lagos State. When I mean food stuff, I'm talking about rice, beans, garri, name it. That he went to village to bring to Lagos. So where does that leave us? It shows that the serious level of insecurity in the rural areas is causing this level of food inflation. Because for all we can clearly see, if a man who hails from Benue State, resides in Lagos, is buying rice, garri, yam from Lagos and sending back to the village, I think it's a sin of concern. Because as it stands, it's a matter of time. We all know the implication of what we are seeing. Because currently, the price of beans is skyrocketing. Rice is already on the high side. Yam is on the high side. So the only potent way to address this is to rejig our security architecture. And in rejigging it, we need to look inward and see whether we can allow state police. Because currently, we understand that even after southwestern states came up with a security arrangement called Amatekun, going by some clause in our constitution, because we understand that before you can bear arms to protect citizens, you must need an end-user certificate that comes from the Office of the National Security Advisor. I think this has become impediment for Amatekun and some other security arrangement at the state level. So that is why we need a federal government buy-in. Let us have the issue being discussed at the level of National Assembly. Let us see whether we can remove the issue of security from exclusive legislative list. Let it go into the concurrent list, so that both National Assembly and state houses of assembly can legislate over it. And apart from that, let us see whether the federal government can synergize with the state governments to see whether they could allow state security arrangements like Amatekun bear arm. Because if you have a security arrangement to protect lives and property at the state level, and they do not have the leverage, the power to bear arm, definitely, I tell you, there is little or nothing they can do. Let us look at another area. Here I'm talking about police impunity, and it's coming from the former Vice President of Nigeria, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. He says, stop rate of impunity, flagrant violation of citizens' rights. Atiku flames federal government. I think Atiku is saying this in the light of a court order restraining the police from arresting a particular Nigerian until the substantive issue is discussed in court. But against the court order, it's understandable that the police went ahead to arrest the person in question. And at this point, I think we should understand that rule of law is paramount in democracy. That it is irrespective of one's opinion. When there's a court order, it behoves on every party, whether the government, whether any government institution, whether the police, it behoves on everybody to abide by that ruling. To that extent, I'm using this opportunity to encourage the police to be more responsible when it comes to court order, to be ready to abide by court order. Let us look at another issue we have here. We are seeing, it say, Boko Haram prepare 15 female suicide bombers for Goza attack. That is coming from Labaja. I think Labaja is the chief of army staff. But let me quickly say here that we need intelligence, more of intelligence gathering, because we have series of plethora of security agents. We have the DSS that is saddled with the responsibility of intelligence gathering locally. We have the National Intelligence Agency that handles intelligence globally. We have the police, even within the police, we have the surveillance unit. So what I'm trying to say in essence is, I think the DSS should step up their responsibility in terms of intelligence gathering, so that such attempt or such attack like what we saw in Goza could be nipped in the bud, because we have enough intelligence pointing to this attack. I think the authority would have synergized and see how they could bring it, stop it before it happened. There is another one here talking about, he said, man ends it all, jumps into river in Osun State. I think this has to do with depression, and with this we are calling on government at all level, both local government level, state level, federal level, to start setting up agencies responsible for addressing Nigerians who perhaps may be in depression. We understand that there are so many reasons why one could go into depression. The current economic situation is a very good reason why some people could go into depression. I think this is a very good time for government at all levels to synergize and have government parastatals, agencies that goes through the society, into the society, sample opinion of Nigerians, know when one is being depressed, how to isolate them from the society, get them treated, and return them to the normal society. I think with this, we have to let it go. But I must say a very big thank you, all our esteemed viewers. Thank you very much. This is Satellite Media, and Mr. Matthew.